There was blood on the wall. There was blood and hair on a light switch. Something happened there. It was a crime scene of some sort.
A millionaire wife vanishes without a trace. Her husband, calm, too calm, and hidden in their luxury home, a blood-stained hammer. When her body is found in a field nearby, the truth begins to rot its way to the surface. Police had their suspect. They had the evidence. But only one chilling confession exposed the unthinkable. You've heard pieces of this case, but not like this. This channel reveals what others missed. The signs, the secrets, and the system that almost let it slip away. This is the full breakdown, the whole truth. Welcome to Dark Chronicles, where shadows hide the truth. On the morning of March 1st, 2019, a woman named Andreen McDonald, mother, entrepreneur, and beloved member of the San Antonio community, failed to show up for work. To most people, that might not have seemed strange. Maybe she overslept. Maybe she had car trouble. But to the people who knew her best, it was terrifying. Andreen was disciplined, predictable, the type who followed a schedule like clockwork. At 5:30 a.m., she was always at the gym. By 8 a.m., she was in the office. When she didn't arrive, her employees grew concerned. When they called the gym and learned she hadn't shown up there either, it was like sounding an alarm. They called, they texted. Her phone rang and rang until it went straight to voicemail. And when someone finally went to her house, they found her purse, her keys, her car, everything still there. Everything except Andreen, a missing person. A house that didn't look ransacked. A backyard that had a burn pile. Something wasn't adding up. And when authorities looked closer, what they saw horrified them. On a light switch in the bathroom, they found blood, hair. In the backyard, they found a zipper. Not just any zipper, one that matched Andreen's blouse. That same afternoon, Andre McDonald, her husband, told deputies he thought Andreen may have gone to a hospital due to her migraines. He said he'd even driven to a local ER to check. Security footage confirmed his story, but it didn't make things any less suspicious. Because the woman who checked in wasn't Andreen. It was another woman with the same last name. So why would he lie about that? Andreen McDonald was born in Jamaica. She was a powerhouse. She moved to the United States with Andre, who at the time was a captain in the U.S. Air Force. Together, they built a business from nothing, Starlight Homes. It became one of San Antonio's fastest-growing assisted living companies. By the age of 29, Andreen had become a self-made millionaire. She had a young daughter, a supportive family, and a future filled with ambition. So when she vanished, without a note, without her phone, without even her car, it raised the ultimate question: who walks away from a life like that? And who benefits when she's gone? Andre McDonald told authorities he and Andreen had argued the night before. About money, about the business, about her plans. He said he left the house for gas, cooled off, came home and went to bed. But what he didn't mention was the text fight, the accusations, the names that came up. One name in particular, Owen Hall, a businessman from Jamaica, a man Andreen had dated as a teenager, a man who had resurfaced, a man whose birthday matched the tattoo freshly inked on Andreen's wrist. And that, investigators would later say, was the match to the flame. Andreen's tattoo wasn't just a tattoo. It was a signal, a message, whether intended or not, to anyone paying attention. And Andre McDonald was paying very, very close attention. He did his own digging. He scoured social media, and he found something chilling, a photo of Owen Hall, smiling, holding up his own wrist. On it, the exact same numbers, the same date, a matching tattoo. Investigators would later say this discovery enraged Andre. He confronted Andreen, threatened divorce, demanded she cut off contact with Owen. Andreen, wanting to protect what she built, agreed. She covered the tattoo, promised to move forward. But some things, some resentments, don't go away that easily. On February 28th, the day before she disappeared, Andre and Andreen went to their tax preparer. That night, they argued again. This time about finances, about control, and according to Andre, about secrets. He told police he left the house after the fight. needed to cool off. Surveillance footage showed him buying gas, but what he didn't say again was more telling than what he did. Investigators pulled data from Andre's phone. Text messages from the night of the 28th revealed a fight spiraling out of control, accusations of infidelity, claims of betrayal, and hints that the marriage was cracking far beyond repair. One text from Andreen read, "If you bring up Owen again, I will divorce you myself." Another from Andre, "You brought him into our life." In the days after Andreen vanished, Andre McDonald stopped cooperating with police. He stopped answering their questions. He hired a lawyer. Then came the hardware store receipt. In Andre's home, buried inside a trash bin, detectives found a torn-up receipt from Lowe's. The date, March 2nd. The day after Andreen was last seen. The purchases? A shovel, a hatchet, trash bags, gasoline cans, gloves. Surveillance video from the store confirmed it. There was Andre McDonald, calmly walking down the aisles, placing items into his cart. Items that would soon suggest something far darker than a domestic argument. Back at the house, forensic teams found a yellow claw hammer. On it, blood. DNA testing confirmed it matched Andreen. By March 3rd, just 48 hours into the investigation, authorities believed they had their man. Andre McDonald was arrested, but not for murder. Not yet. He was charged with tampering with evidence, because they still hadn't found a body. Without Andreen's remains, a murder case would be much harder to prove. But even then, the suspicion was loud, growing, and unmistakable. Andreen's friends, family, and even strangers in the community began organizing searches. They combed through fields, wooded areas, hospitals, abandoned roads. Nothing. For weeks, San Antonio watched, waited, and whispered. Was she still alive? Or had a murderer just buried the truth with her body? The answer wouldn't come for months. On July 11th, 2019, more than 4 months after Andreen went missing, a rancher named Clifton Cundiff went looking for a cow skull along a wooded fence line 6 miles from the McDonald home. What he found instead was a human skull. Next to it, bits of charred clothing, a shoe, bones scattered in the underbrush. It was Andreen. Her remains had been left out in the elements for so long, it was impossible to determine a precise cause of death. But one thing was certain, she hadn't died peacefully. The discovery shattered whatever hope remained for Andreen's loved ones, her family, her friends, her daughter. 12-year-old Alina had been kept in the dark for much of the investigation. Now, she'd have to grow up knowing the darkest truth of all. Prosecutors moved quickly. With a body recovered, they now had what they needed to charge Andre McDonald with murder. But building the case would be anything but easy. Without a known cause of death, without a confession, and with only circumstantial evidence tying him to the scene, prosecutors had to lean heavily on one thing: Andre's own actions. The hammer, the shopping trip, the inconsistencies, the cover-ups, and most chilling of all, what he eventually admitted in court. At trial, Andre McDonald finally broke his silence. He took the stand in his own defense, and what he said was horrifying. He admitted to arguing with Andreen that night, admitted to hitting her, to watching her bleed. He said it wasn't intentional, that it was self-defense, that she had attacked him first. But then he said something no one could have expected, that after she died, he panicked. He didn't call 911. He didn't try to revive her. He waited until his daughter was asleep. Then he carried her body to a remote field, stripped her, dumped her, burned her clothes. And when he walked away, he said he picked up a hammer and struck her one last time. Not in fear, not in defense, but because, in his words, "I guess I was still angry." Andre's testimony sent shockwaves through the courtroom. The prosecution built their closing arguments around his own words. They didn't need to embellish. They just needed the jury to remember. Remember the hardware store footage. Remember the hammer. Remember the confession. This is not self-defense, the prosecutor said. This is someone who lost control, who made a decision and then made another and another. But the defense wasn't done. They argued Andre had been provoked, that he was cornered emotionally and psychologically, that Andreen had been unfaithful, that she started the fight, that he didn't plan to kill her. They didn't argue innocence, they argued nuance. The jury was split. Some wanted murder, some wanted manslaughter. They deliberated for hours, poring over the definitions. Intentional, reckless, self-defense. In the end, they chose the middle road. Andreen McDonald was found guilty of manslaughter, not murder, a charge that carries far less time. The verdict stunned the courtroom. Andreen's family sobbed. Prosecutors looked deflated. For them, it wasn't just a legal setback, it felt like a moral one. But justice, however imperfect, had arrived. And Andreen McDonald, once a decorated Air Force major, was now a convicted killer. The sentence? 20 years. He'll be eligible for parole in less than 10. But even with a conviction, the case didn't end. For Andreen's family, the pain only deepened. They had fought for justice. They had watched the man they once welcomed into their home, a man who shared their dinner table, confess to ending their daughter's life. And yet, he would still have a chance to walk free. Her mother, Maureen, said it plainly. This isn't closure, it's just survival. 12-year-old Elena, now raised by relatives, was old enough to understand words like trial, verdict, and manslaughter, but too young to understand why her father did what he did, or why the world kept replaying the worst night of her life on television. The media swarmed the story. True crime podcasts picked it apart. YouTube videos dissected Andree's courtroom demeanor. Some commentators focused on Andreen's success, painting her as a woman too independent, too driven. Others speculated on Andree's mental state, blaming pressure, pride, and paranoia. Then there were the conspiracy theories. Claims that Andreen's success made her a target, that Andree acted out of fear she would leave and take the business. Others questioned the verdict. Was it too light? Was justice truly served? In Jamaica, where both families had roots, the case hit home. Andreen had been a symbol of success for many young women. Now she was a cautionary tale. Even the sheriff's office, which had once hesitated to charge a decorated Air Force officer, admitted there were lessons in how the case unfolded. A missing phone, a cleaned-up crime scene, a delayed arrest. Any one of those decisions could have derailed the case entirely. But what stood out most was this. Had Andree not taken the stand, had he not spoken, he might have walked free. His own words convicted him. He explained how he hit her, how he dumped her body, how he struck her after death. Those details pierced through everything else. And for the jury, that was enough. But for the people who loved Andreen, enough will never be enough. They remember the woman who built a business before 30, who mentored others, who gave to the community, who never missed a workout or a birthday or a school event. They remember the light, and they live with the shadow. Because this story was never just about a crime. It was about a woman who tried to rise and the man who couldn't handle her flight. As time passed, Andreen's name faded from headlines, but not from memory. Her friends continued to celebrate her birthday each year. Her former colleagues at Starlight Homes still speak of her with reverence. Her daughter, Elena, now a teenager, lives with a mixture of grace and grief. She knows the world sees her story as a case file, a tragic headline, a courtroom drama. But for her, it's the silence that follows, the empty chair, the unanswered questions. In interviews, Andreen's mother said the hardest part isn't the memories. It's the what-ifs. What if someone had intervened sooner? What if Andree had asked for help instead of hiding behind silence and strategy? What if the justice system had recognized emotional abuse as clearly as physical violence? These questions linger in every true crime case, but this one cuts deeper because so many signs were missed and because Andreen had done everything right. She worked hard. She built her dream. She gave back, and yet she ended up a statistic. The case of Andreen McDonald is a stark reminder that power doesn't protect, that appearances deceive, and that even the most promising futures can be stolen in an instant. Her story now serves as a cautionary tale. Not just about domestic violence, but about emotional manipulation, about control masked as love, about what happens when ambition threatens ego. Andreen McDonald may serve time. He may not. The system gave him 20 years, but Andreen lost everything. No parole, no appeal, just a field, a fire, and a silence that can never be reversed. This documentary is not about villains and victims. It's about the gray space in between, the silence between texts, the pauses in courtrooms, the hesitation before action. And in that silence, we find truth. We remember Andreen not for how she died, but for how she lived. Relentless, ambitious, generous, brilliant. A light that never should have gone out. Let's not forget, this wasn't a random crime. It was calculated, intimate, committed by someone who once promised to love and protect. When Andreen McDonald sat in that courtroom, staring forward, unmoved, jurors noticed. The way he told the story, the way he described his wife's final moments, the lack of sorrow, the clinical tone. Maybe that's why the jury didn't believe it was self-defense. Maybe that's why the community still calls it murder, no matter what the verdict said. Because when you listen to the 911 tapes, when you watch the security footage, when you sit through 6 days of testimony, a story emerges that facts alone can't fully explain. It's a story of resentment, of a man who couldn't stand living in his wife's shadow, who couldn't bear to lose the image of control. Andreen didn't just hide evidence. He erased traces of a woman who had threatened his ego. Her body, her clothes, her voice, gone. And the scariest part? He almost got away with it. If not for a chance discovery on a ranch, if not for a confession, if not for a community that refused to give up. In the aftermath, San Antonio changed. Domestic violence programs saw a surge in calls. Women came forward. Conversations started happening in homes, churches, boardrooms. The face of that conversation? Andreen McDonald. She had built a legacy. Now, in death, she had become a symbol, one no one had asked her to be. And that's the tragedy within the tragedy, that a woman who spent her life empowering others could not escape the one danger closest to her. In a final gesture of remembrance, the city planted a tree near the field where she was found. Her daughter helped cut the ribbon. A plaque bears her name, but it's the shadow behind the tree that says the most. A reminder that safety isn't a guarantee, that sometimes the person standing beside you holds both love and destruction in their hands. Andreen's story forces us to ask, what does justice really look like? Is it a guilty verdict? A sentence? Or is it found in the collective promise that this won't happen again? That the warning signs won't be missed, that silence won't be accepted, that women, especially women who shine, won't be dimmed by those too weak to support them. This documentary isn't meant to reopen wounds. It's meant to demand that we don't close our eyes. Because in every true crime story, there is a choice: to look away or to face what's uncomfortable, to seek vengeance or to seek understanding, to forget or to remember. We remember Andreen McDonald, not for how she died, but for how brightly she lived, for the lives she changed, for the daughter she raised, and for the truth that, no matter how deeply buried, still found its way to the light. Andreen McDonald didn't vanish into thin air. She was taken, silenced, stripped of everything except her legacy. A brilliant entrepreneur, a devoted mother, a woman who built a life from nothing and still became nothing more than a headline in the end. But here, on this channel, she's more than a case file. She's more than evidence bags and court exhibits. She's a warning, a wake-up call, and a voice that still deserves to be heard. For Elena, for every woman told to stay silent, for every survivor still walking through the fire. Justice isn't just a sentence, it's what we do with the truth after the verdict is read. If this story moved you, don't just watch. Remember, speak, share, because silence doesn't protect anyone. Andreen McDonald's light was stolen. Let's make sure it's never forgotten.
So that's how crimes end, and If you like this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on the notifications. If you want me to do some special crimes in all over the world, comment down below, or you can send us direct through email and I will see you in all my videos. See ya!